if the Supreme Court rules in South Carolina's favor, then that roadblock will be taken away. And I'm confident that a number of states looking at Planned Parenthood will decide this is not an organization that they want to fund with their taxpayer dollars.
Taxpayer dollars funding abortion clinics is at the center of a Supreme Court case that could have national implications on how your money is spent. South Carolina had banned taxpayer funding under its Medicaid program from going to Planned Parenthood. However, a woman and the abortion empire sued the state, and the case moved its way through the courts until it reached the U.S. Supreme Court. Justices will decide whether pro-life states can pull Medicaid funding away from abortion facilities. The March for Life led a rally at the Supreme Court today, while the justices heard oral arguments on the case of South Carolina. Hundreds of pro-lifers showed support for a state's right to choose health, not harm, for pregnant women and their children. Jennie Bradley Lichter, the president of the March for Life, who has wide-ranging legal and policy experience, joins us now to discuss this important case. She was inside the Supreme Court while oral arguments took place. Jennie, it's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. Can you explain for our viewers, what is the question at the center of this case?
Sure, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be at EWTN. So this case is a little bit wonky and technical, but I'm going to simplify it the best that I can. The bottom line of this case is, does an individual state, in this case South Carolina, have the authority under the Medicaid statute to decide that it doesn't want Medicaid dollars, taxpayer dollars, flowing to Planned Parenthood? South Carolina made the decision several years ago based on its state's strong pro-life commitment and pro-life laws that it deemed Planned Parenthood disqualified to participate in the Medicaid program. And this case is essentially asking, can the state's decision stand?
That's a great summary. Thank you so much. And I hear you were in the room this morning during the oral arguments. What was the atmosphere like, and was there anything that stood out to you?
Thanks. It was very exciting to be in the courtroom this morning. The room was packed, and when you're at an argument in the Supreme Court, you really can hear a pin drop while the lawyers are making their argument, and then they're engaging with the justices as they ask questions. So this morning, the argument went on for a long time, an hour and a half or maybe even a little bit longer. The justices asked really good questions. South Carolina's lawyer, John Bursch from ADF, did a terrific job answering all of their questions.
We had him on earlier.
Did you? Fantastic.
Yes, we did.
I don't think this is going to ultimately be a unanimous decision, but based on what I heard this morning, I do think that a majority of the justices on the Supreme Court will uphold South Carolina's ability to defund Planned Parenthood from their Medicaid program.
That's very encouraging. And more than a dozen states have pro-life laws that limit abortion. How can this case impact their Medicaid spending?
That's right. So the states all have Medicaid dollars from the federal government to disperse. And again, remember, those are taxpayer dollars, right? It's our money that the federal government is giving the states. And then, states can decide ultimately how that Medicaid money should be spent. So if South Carolina wins this case, that opens up a lot of opportunities for other states to make decisions like, based on the fact that Planned Parenthood's business model is built around abortion, essentially assembly line style abortion, and its long history of botched procedures and mistakes and subpar health care, that it doesn't believe that participants in Medicaid should be taking taxpayer dollars to Planned Parenthood. So a win for South Carolina in this case would have really wide impacts on how other states with pro-life laws and pro-life people could be spending their Medicaid dollars.
That's great. And then finally, we just covered the Wisconsin Supreme Court case election. What is your reaction to Susan Crawford winning? And how do you think this will impact the fight for life on the ground?
Well, I'm sorry, of course, to see Susan Crawford's victory. She built her campaign on abortion and on really scare tactics, right? Trying to scare voters into believing that if she didn't win, the clock would be turned back and women would lose all kinds of important rights. And of course, that's not true at all. So I think this is a call to action, especially for pro-life people in Wisconsin, but for all of us, right? To just continue to make it clear and witness to life that the pro-life movement isn't about scaring people or taking away health care, right? It's about taking care of women and their babies.
I love that. And then I think also part of the narrative saying that a lot of money is being put into this race.
Yeah.
But I think the argument can be a little bit one-sided. What are a couple of the arguments you've been making on the ground that you think have really helped people shift their perspective?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So a lot of money from big Democrat donors poured into this race, right, this state level race in a way that I think we haven't really seen before. But the pro-life message never should change, right? The message, again, is that The pro-life movement is about making sure that moms can access the support and resources that they want and need. And actually, just to turn back to the South Carolina case, right, one of the great outcomes of a win for South Carolina would be the state's ability to direct more Medicaid dollars towards life-affirming healthcare providers, including pregnancy resource centers. So in Wisconsin and everywhere across the country, it's really important to make sure that women know how to find places like PRCs and maternity homes when they need them. And just kind of keep spreading that message of support, love, care, compassion for moms and their babies. Again, we are on the side of life. We are on the side of love and care and compassion. We don't have to rely on scaring people using big-pocketed Democrat donors, right? But just need to keep making sure that message breaks through.
That's so true. The truth is loud and strong.
It is.
Now, Jennie, last time we had you on the show, you were president-elect. Now
Yes.
you've had a couple of months in the presidency. What has surprised you most?
That's right. It's been just about 2 months since I became the president of the March for Life, which is already just an incredible blessing to me and my family. And I have to say, one of the best and maybe most surprising things so far has been how absolutely wonderful our state marches for life are. And I in a way, not surprising because everyone had told me that they were fantastic. But as I have been able to get on the road myself and attend state marches in Arizona earlier this month, in Connecticut, I'm going out to the Colorado March for Life next week. They're so much fun and the energy is incredible and the tone is so positive and so hopeful. It's really, really beautiful. A local community coming together at the state level to stand up for life. There's always a lot of school groups there. There's families with their kids in strollers. There's a lot of homemade signs. And again, just that really organic grassroots energy that I am finding so encouraging. And then I'm bringing that energy back with me to Washington and then kind of counting the days until I can get back on the road again to another state march. So I would just encourage anyone who's within driving distance of a state march for life, please come and join us this spring or next fall or whenever you have a chance because they're really fantastic.
Well, Jennie, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know today was a busy day, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thanks for having me.
An update to a story we've been following. This week, the Trump administration is withholding $20 million from Planned Parenthood. The Department of Health and Human Services froze Title X funding for 9 state affiliates because it says they failed to comply with Trump's executive order on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Natalie Dodson, a policy analyst at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, says the administration's move is one that resonates with taxpayers.
Taxpayer funding for abortion has been unpopular, widely unpopular for many, many years. President Trump made the commitment that he would return the issue of abortion to the states. That includes funding for abortion. And so defunding Planned Parenthood is the first step in really completing this commitment that he's made to the American people and to the taxpayers.
Planned Parenthood has 10 days to prove it complies with Trump's orders before the funding is further suspended or terminated. That sum is just part of the hundreds of millions of federal taxpayer money that the organization receives every year.
The pro-life movement stands unified behind one single message: defund the entire abortion industry, defund the longtime standard bearer of Planned Parenthood, once and for all.
Pro-lifers from across the country traveled to the Capitol last Thursday to encourage lawmakers to defund Planned Parenthood. They stood among more than 1,000 small pink crosses, a somber reminder of the preborn lives the organization takes every day. While the Trump administration only temporarily froze some of Planned Parenthood's funding, Congress could permanently defund it.